Welcome. My name is Penelope Chatterton. Welcome to Awaken the Dream. My friends, it's my Joel day today. He's the man that I had mentioned to you in other monologues that when he died, I picked him up as my new teacher, the teacher of the Infinite Way movement. I feel very close to Joel in that he was a Christian Scientist practitioner. My father, Nathan Chatterton, was. My grandparents, Nathan Chatterton Sr. was, and I was raised under several influences, which sort of didn't make a whole lot of sense. But with my struggles, I've come into the world of Christian Science, metaphysical teaching, and healing, and discovered Joel several years ago. And so I have to tell you how much this book, the book on silence means to me, The Thunder of Silence. To me, the title is magnificent, but it's the punchline for the book. And we think, why is the thunder in silence? What does that mean? And I'm going to try and start a little bit from the beginning when Joel talks about two covenants. And that first covenant talks about the earth plane, the human scene, the conditioning of being a human being here. And then the opportunity to look at spiritual growth, the option of the spiritual world. So we got this in the first chapter in Genesis, talking about the perfection of life in the Garden of Eden. Everything was dandy. Adam and Eve were happy, everybody was peaceful, God was happy, everybody had everything, and there was no problem. First chapter. Well, I guess, as the books say, there was a dual universe created by man, not by God, but by humans, where they decided to see the duality of being a human, making choices which involved fear, and also knowing that they were spiritual. So in this divided world, this dualistic universe, we are trying to find this thunder of silence because we're going to need it. All right, so here we have the conditioned mind. Here we look at life through what we have been taught, through our parents, through our schools, through politics, through everything that is here. We come in, and what we become is what is fed to us. We absorb it, it means a lot to us, and we believe it so very strongly. It's very hard to break some of our beliefs because that's all we know. We were raised that way, and that's it. End of story. So how do we cut through the fear that sets up? The fear of pain, the fear of abandonment, the fear of death. The fear of death is very, very, very big. When we were in that first chapter in the Garden of Eden, there was no death. There was the now moment. The now was then. The now is now. The now will always be the now, no matter when we tune in. It's going to be the same. It's going to be eternal. We are eternal. So let's go from that first chapter and see what we can do with that. So we're trying to figure out our path. We're trying to figure out, where do we find silence? How can we change our thinking? This book, The Thunder of Silence, was really like 100 years ahead of its time, and it is more popular today than it ever was. It was published in 1961. All the spiritual teachers, the biggies right now, are just blown away by the influence that he has now, because it wasn't even as appreciated. It was so far ahead of its time. Trying to dare to say that we can go within ourselves, we can meditate, we can dissolve. Opposition can leave us. Anything opposing us in fear, in our thunder of silence, dissipates. It dissolves. It's that simple and that hard. All right, so I'm obviously talking about a meditation practice. I'm obviously talking as a human being who's had her head filled, and with many traumas, with all the fear and the anxiety and the hurt that I bear. And it takes an awful lot of courage to break through that. We are in a very creative, pulsing universe. And by creative, our God is creative. Everything about us is creative. Nothing stands still. And that's encouraging when we think of the roads that we take, the detours we take, that are really not who we are. Don't ever let your neighbor tell you who you are. Go within, because if it's really not you, you won't be able to go there. You'll try it because, gee, someone said that was what you were supposed to do, and this is what the world of appearance looks like. And our goals of smelling, tasting, feeling, senses, all of our pleasures, all of those wonderful things we think are going to make us happy, the best car, the best job, tons of money, all of those, they're just false idols. And the world tells us this is where we're supposed to go, and why shouldn't we listen to what the world tells us? I don't see why we shouldn't. However, the world turns as the world turns. So as the world turns and we find out that these idols are not really who we are, because let me just put it this way, Joel makes sure that that first chapter tells us we have everything. If we are in God consciousness, we have wealth, we have health, we have absolutely everything, but we have to realize that. It means then the courage and the energy to sit within to find the presence. And that presence, it can be a warmth, some of your issues can just sort of rise up. Something happens when you sit, and if you have to sit, as Joel said, for days, go ahead, but sit you will until you find that inner peace, until you find you. And let me tell you the secret to that thunder of silence. It's your heart. We think of all the places that we can go. Joel did not want to create a religion around the Infinite Way movement. He left Christian Science after years of seriously healing people. He loved Mary Baker Eddy. He totally got that information. But it was organized to the point where all of a sudden the power of the voice, that still small voice coming into the heart, seemed to not be very alive with all that was going on in the organized field. Too much. And God is found in privacy. So yes, it's good to be with like-minded, spiritual, religious friends. There's not a thing wrong with it. Everything's perfect. As long as you're on sort of the same page and you're working together and you feel this warmth and this love within you wherever you are. If that's where you are, that's where you should be, and it's perfect. If that wears out, you may want to go deeper. And I had this wonderful book that I picked up that says today all of these groups and new ways of looking at life and our pain, our groups are taking us deeper, because my theory is that so much of the world is now, we're familiar with all the trauma, so much more today than we ever have. It's just so seriously painful that I think sometimes these organizations are so busy with busy work and committees and fundraising and whatever, that it doesn't go to the healing part, which is where I think religions and spirituality are deepening. There's more of a sense of prayer, meditation, and quiet, so that the still small voice can be in charge. And that's what we want. We want that guidance. We want to be the servant that says, look, I've tried everything. I've had great relationships. I've had not great ones. I've had great jobs, not great jobs. But there's still always something, because I'm not back in the Garden of Eden. I think this is what the creativity of our life is about, that we will be working our way back, because everything of lack that we've ever experienced will fall short. It will not be who we are. So as we keep working within and we ask to be only servants, to only hear that voice, we don't want to be bogged down by worrying about our children, our best friend, where we should live, what we should do. We want advice far beyond what we might think is where we should go. We cannot manipulate God. We cannot just pray for everything and treat Him or consciousness or spirit like He is human. Jesus came and was a man. He was Jesus the Christ. He was Jesus the man who had the Christ mind, who connected to his Father to share with all of humanity, those that could really hear this, and there were few, that my Father and I are one. He makes the crooked ways straight. Mansions are prepared for me, and He gives me grace. I want to talk about grace. Grace is interesting because we all receive grace, but we are all individualized entities of God. We're all here with a mission. And so the grace you might receive, I mean, this is how vast consciousness is and love is, that the grace you receive is going to be different from what someone else needs. And we don't know what that is for someone else, but the God that is so overly not human and so mysterious and so beyond words, knows for every single person what they need, what their grace can be and what it should be. That's how awesome grace is. And grace is the gift that we've been given, and it's always there and will always be there. So he did not want to create a religion, and so he went into doing his own private practice. He became a very avid teacher. He loved his students. He wrote many, many, many books, taped many, many, many tapes, traveled all over the world preaching. And he loved working with folks who were hungry for what he had to say. That was the height of his life. And he did it. And he gave us that voice, that knowledge about inner work, the silence within. And so, my friends, when you've got a problem, when you're going through the soil of your life, and if you can recognize your brainwashing is not an evil thing, we're all innocent, loving people, but we just took in some information that may not make us as comfortable as we would like to be. How to cut through that is we become silent, we sit quietly within, no matter how much it takes, until we get the lift, the feeling. And you know what? That's where God is. He's in the heart. Those are my words, but I feel when the mystery of that connection with when you get that presence, your heart is very much involved in that. And that's truly eternity. So to go within with your heart, it's much easier to do that either with someone that you're meditating with that understands that, but there's the privacy that Joel talks about. That's where God is. In your private moments, you're out in the soil of your life, you're out in all this busyness, and let's say you're in a room and people are being obnoxious to you or dislike you, or something's going on where you're saying, that's not who that person is. I know that person is the Son of God, has the Christ mind. That's the gift you give anyone who doesn't know who they are, or they're in a denser mode, or they're unhappy, or they're bullies. We don't talk back, we don't fight them, we dissolve them in our hearts. We give them the gift of, you are a child of God. Whether we say anything does not matter. As we sit and dissolve ourselves in that presence, in that silence, that's when your heart opens and God speaks. And that's where anything and everything that you need to do to be a gift to someone else will come to you. But that's when you separate yourself in privacy and go into that throne room, which is where God can be found. Nowhere else. Within you, in private. And that's the mystery. Think about that for a second. Think about being out with many, many folks, and that world that is within you that's eternity, and it has everything for you, love, peace. And you can pull yourself out of a room, and I'm using that just as an example, with lots going on, where all of a sudden you're really not in that room. It's almost as if you're an actor, and you're on a stage, and you're observing, and you're seeing shadows, and you do not have to take all of that angst in, because you're busy in your privacy and in your thunder of silence, getting guidance, seeing everyone for whom they are. That is the gift you can give anyone and everyone. You can just know wherever they are, they're perfect where they are, and as you acknowledge them as having the Christ mind, which Jesus tried to give us that. Moses came in to try and move the Hebrews into consciousness because they felt, as Christians, only the Hebrews could do that. Moses opened that door so that everyone was considered a loving soul. And that's where then when Jesus came in, who really did not want to be a king, and he humbly kept saying, please just hear what I have to say. I am being spoken to. I have surrendered. I am a vacuum. I'm humble because this voice is telling me everything. And it works. It's giving me something. It's giving me the comfort that I cannot find with another human being, with anything that's here. This is the greatest companionship that's possible. And so I want to preach that to you, and I want you to know I'm not Jesus the Christ, the only man that you should look up to and just put on a pedestal. I want you to know you have what I have. And what a great gift that is. And that gift of the Christ mind is what was within us when we were in that Garden of Eden. It never left us. We decided to look at a dual universe as men, women, as humans, we decided we would have another idea. And that's where our problems began, and that's where we incurred fear. And that's okay, because we're on a journey, and because we're very sure the worst person you know is the Christ, they will be fine. No matter, you don't know what it's going to take, how much of resistance they're going to have to hitting a rock bottom. We never know how that's going to happen. And that's something to let go of. If you don't know what another soul has elected to do, be respectful. That person's on a path. Everybody's on a path. Where they are and their heels are dug in is fine. But just know, in your heart, within this silence, this thunder of silence, that's where you hear that voice with you, being able to extend from your heart, without saying anything necessarily, who somebody else is. You know. This is what Jesus' message was. Everyone has the Christ mind. And that means everyone has someone that's listening, but you have got to go within and be quiet and silent so you can hear the voice. So yes, this book, The Thunder of Silence, I probably will read a lot, because most of Joel's books that I read, I find they feel like I'm reading them for the first time, because they're so profound. And they're so deep, and I can underline them and memorize them and just be blown away by the simplicity of just understanding. When I always try to manipulate my life and I think, well, I don't know if I'll live here or live there, or can I worry about this child or that child or my jobs or whatever, and I get all wrapped up thinking my world is wrapped up in that package. That's not my world at all. My world is going within, because for all I know, that voice might send me to Timbuktu. I have to let go of everything I think I see, because that's just going to come from conditioning. And that's where being quiet and being silent and receiving, as Jesus did, we all are given the gift. Everyone here. And you know, with the news, as I mentioned, there's so much exposed to us about the world and terrorism and hunger and just horrible things that are going on more than ever. The pain of seeing that or feeling that, we need to not care. We need to care and do what we can here. We need to serve, but we also have to know that those folks that we worry about are okay somewhere, no matter, we don't know how many times they've been here. We don't know their level of sensitivity. Some people wake up in a flash. I've had guests on here that had a head slap and all of a sudden they were enlightened. Others, like myself, we go through struggles and years, and we need a lot of patience and a lot of prayer, and you know, but you find your life getting better. It just gets better, it gets more peaceful, but you need a way to make this work. You need the path, the journey. You need to remember the Garden of Eden. You remember deep down within you, that's your soul memory. God is your soul. That's where you are at all times, no matter where you think you are, that's where you really are. But the reason I know that you'll be fine, and I'm fine and everybody's fine, is that nothing works falling short. You might think for a while, oh gosh, I cheated somebody out of some money and boy, it made my life better. Well, that's not going to last very long, but it might feel like it's going to last for a few minutes, but all that dissipates. Fear dissolves in the silence, the thunder of silence. Anything that opposes you, that you sit with, dissipates. It dissolves. It goes away, because there you are. You've elected to go sit in the presence. You've elected to go back to the Garden of Eden. You've elected to say, this is who I am. Thank you. What's my next move? I'm yours. I'm your servant. And that's the point of the thunder of silence. And the reason it feels thunderous is that still small voice is thunderous. When it comes through, it's just like, it's very exciting. And that's why that tiny little voice sounds thunderous. So my friends, I think all of us do have a mission in sharing. I think we're all here as creative beings in a creative universe created by a very creative consciousness that's forever giving us that same creative ability, is that nothing is going to ever stand still for you. And that's good news. I mean, you keep moving through periods in your life, you grow. Permanent growth is permanent. all those sufferings that you did, all that overcoming, all that pain you faced, all the agonies you dared to look at with your courage, took you somewhere. Creatively, you moved on your path. You're now in a different place, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. I am a new being. And living in the now is something that is always present within you. And so Joel points about the now is now. The now was long ago, and the now will always be when you decide to sit in it. You never started, you have no death, you had no beginning, you are eternal, but the now can show up, and it can erase all the pain you've ever had in a moment, just like that. If you decide to be in the now, all that stuff that you thought that you would carry around forever is gone. Because it's just who you really are. It's the gift you've really been given, and it's the gift you will enjoy forever. And then you can ask, as a servant, I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve God, consciousness. I'm here to lift humanity. And what can I do? What's my gift? I thought I had many of them years ago. Well, as you get older, you know, your gifts, you re-gift yourself, and you find ways to present yourself in ways that are different because it's appropriate, but you're creative. So there's going to be a stage for you, one stage after another, where you'll move on, and you'll evolve, and you'll help folks just by giving them the gift of who you know they are. When someone comes to you and whines about how awful they are, you can just say, that is just not true. If someone wants to talk to you for counseling, you can straighten them right out. You can give them that courage. You can give them that knowledge. And you can recommend that they sit in silence for the thunder of silence, for the still small voice, which is all that we want. This takes us down the yellow brick road and guides our every move. That's our goal here. So if you don't have a mission, ask about it. Ask to do stuff you like. Dare to do stuff you like, because that's who you really are. No one else can tell you that. Only you know. You just keep trying stuff that you like to do. That's really who you are, the authentic person. Gee, someone said that's not practical, or that doesn't run in my family, and we were educated to think differently. Well, too bad. You might flunk out of school because what they thought you should be didn't work. Don't beat yourself up. It wasn't who you were. You're here to find out what your mission is, no matter what the family looks like, no matter what your education looks like. You're here to dare to be the real you. And that is exciting, and it's a wonderful way to be here. Oh, I have 5 minutes to go. So my friends, The Thunder of Silence is a wonderful book by Joel S. Goldsmith, who was a mystic, who loved Mary Baker Eddy, who loved all the prophets, Moses and Jesus and Elijah and Elisha, and all of them. And I do believe Jesus, because he didn't start, he only had 3 years of teaching, did an awful lot of Eastern studies. He showed up very evolved with the truth, and he learned that here. He learned a lot. There are a lot of prophets that were out there that didn't make the mark that Jesus did, but they did enormous work for the spiritual world and for consciousness, because they were mystics too. But Jesus came and gave that gift of the mind that we all have, that's present within us. So please be blessed, please be courageous, please feel good about who you are, please acknowledge your power, how powerful you are, how wonderful you are, and how loving you are, because you are. And we're supposed to love. We're supposed to love deeply. We're here because that is truly eternity. There was nothing but abundant, pulsating love. If you've been out of time and experienced it, you know what I mean. There's nothing like it. We're here to give our love away. And we can do that when we don't take issue with anyone. Resist your evil. When something comes at you that looks evil, you got to know it's not. And so you can dissolve that. That will move away from you as you recognize what you're really looking at. Now that's a stretch for a lot of folks. You got to put the actor's role on and say, oh my gosh, that looks pretty bad, and this person really doesn't like this about me, but you know what? That isn't the truth. So as you dissolve that within you about them, they can move away. You can break, they can look in the mirror and it'll break because they're not ready for who you are. And you may not be ready for who they are, but that's okay. Everybody is going to gravitate creatively to where they belong for their next growth spurt. Sometimes we have plateaus. Sometimes we just get lazy about our meditation. And sometimes we say, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about who I was the last hour. Well, that'll get better and better and better as you cultivate the trust in that still small voice, as you know. And what you'll get is how loved you are, how deeply, deeply loved you are. That little voice, it's kind of like magic. And it feels like thunder. Because it's mind-blowing when it comes with something that only God knows about you, that you wonder if he did. You don't have to go implore and pray and do a list like God is a human being, because he's not. He's not going to hear any of that. He's got such better ideas. He knows you better than all of that. He knows, as I said, all the things I think I'm supposed to be doing with my life, where I'm going to live, what my kids are doing. We go beyond that. If we let go of all of what we think we want, and the list of all our pleading, and if I give this money to this church, and if I get on this list, then I'm going to be heard. You won't. God is going to do much better for you if you do not go there. Expect something unexpected. Expect miracles. Expect things to happen in that voice to tell you stuff you didn't think about. That's what's so much fun here on the path. Yes, there's a treat for you in store as you let go of everything that you thought you were, everything that someone else thought you were. Have some fun. In my last minute, my friends, have some fun. Do what you love. It could be something that could blow everybody's mind, especially yours, if it's something that gnawed at you forever and you haven't dared try it. And dare to be open. And in your prayer life, notice how things come to you. Be the witness. And know that God works in very mysterious ways. Something will plop into your life that is an answered prayer that you did not think of. You didn't ask for it, but if you open yourself as an empty vessel, this empty vacuum saying, I have cleared my mind of everything I think I'm looking at and everything I think I am, only to know that you know what's best for me because you love me that much. And I'm in a creative universe, and I'm not going for any of the conditioning. I'm going for eternity. I'm going back to the Garden of Eden. I'm right there, and I'm not going to create a dual universe. I'm going to reject it, and I'm going to walk on water, and I am whole, complete, and perfect. And I have everything I need, and it doesn't have to be big scale. You will find little miracles coming in for everything that you need without asking. But you've got to feel the presence. For that miracle to happen, you have got to feel the presence. You've got to rest in it so you feel the shift within you so that the miracles can come to you. Stay with it long enough to feel the shift. Thank you, my friends, for joining me on Awaken the Dream, and I will talk to you again soon.